leading a team and doing a job, that's two different skill sets. So it is scary because leaders have as much impact on your health, physical, mental health, as your MD does.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. If you're a CEO or business leader, you've no doubt felt the pressure of not hitting your goals. So how do you manage a team and help everyone get to goal, including yourself? First, you need to understand who you are and what motivates you in order to shift your leadership strategy to effectively manage your team. That's why we invited Isabelle Fortin to Be Bold Branding. Isabelle is also a BrandFace client, and both Michael and I have had the good fortune to go through her revolutionary assessment to discover our own motivations. Today, we'll learn Isabelle's story and also unveil some of the things we learned about who we are as leaders.
Isabelle, welcome to Be Bold Branding.
You guys are so awesome to have me. Thank you so much.
You're awesome.
Are you kidding?
And we're going to have a lot of fun on this episode for sure.
Like it or not.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I know Tanya's motivations now. I got her. No, all joking aside, Isabelle, we like to know background. So tell the audience like a little bit about you and what got you into this space that you're in now.
Joined the military, joined the Air Force right out of high school. And it's actually the picture of a movie. I walked into the bus that was going to bring me to boot camp, still wearing my ball gown, my graduation ball gown. That's how I walked in the bus. And that was bringing me to my military boot camp.
Wow.
So, yeah. So did a decade in the military, and then, it was too rigid for me. It was just too much. And I was sick of moving every couple of years, and I wanted to settle down a little bit more and, get roots into my community. And so I released from the military, and I just started looking for jobs in corporate America. And the first thing that really struck me, which leads me to what I do now, is how bad leadership was in the civilian life. And it took me a long time. I studied this for a long, long time. What was creating all this infighting and this, I don't want to work with her attitude and this, and I couldn't get it for the life of me. And it took me years to understand that it's the lack of leadership training. In the military, every single leader has had leadership training. In the civilian life, that's not how it is. And that's ultimately what led me to do what I do for a living now.
You told me a fascinating statistic. Wasn't it like 6%? I'll let you finish that out.
Yeah. In corporate America, only 6% of leaders get leadership training. So what people do in big corporations like, Amazon or Meta or they understand that leadership skill, that leadership is a skill and that you need training as much as you need training in everything else. But in all the other companies, even, mom and pop shop, most certainly, but even in companies up to 500 employees, they don't provide training for their leaders. So they'll take the best sales rep and they'll say, hey, he's, the top-notch sales rep. We'll put him in charge of him or her in charge of, the sales team. But leading a team and doing a job, that's two different skill sets. So it is scary because leaders have as much impact on your health, physical, mental health, as your MD does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's slowly changing. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. I'll tell you a funny story. I was in the radio industry for 18 years, and several times I was asked if I wanted to move up into management, and my response was always, hell no, no, because I knew at that point in time I wasn't ready to be any kind of a leader. Like I said to them, look, I can barely take care of myself. Like if I just do my own thing over here, I can make a lot more money than if I try and live everybody else's life and, babysit people. And that literally was the way I looked at it back then. Right? It was because there was no leadership training in that world either. There was sales training all day long, but no leadership training. And had it been different, had they said, well, no, actually that could be different. Let's put you through training and see if there's a way to do that. But instantly I was like, both hands up. Nope, not me. That's not me. But I think part of that is recognizing if you're not a leader too, right?
Yeah, there is such a thing as the natural born leader. And I think that has more to do with the fact that people are interested in taking a leadership role. And, you both know, just like I do, that being the leader you don't have to be on top of the food chain in, the corporate world in order to be a leader.
Right.
It's just you need to want to, right? And some people are just, no, thanks. I'll do my little thing here. When I'm done with my job, I'll punch the clock, I'll go home, and that's okay with me. And some people do a heck of a lot more money by not being the boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. Like when you mentioned, like a lot of times people take this great salesperson and they make them into a manager, right? Thinking, okay, they've got it mastered. They teach other people to master it, and it just doesn't equate. And like I grew up in the car business, and it just doesn't. And I still have buddies today that own dealerships, new car dealerships and used car dealerships, that they still struggle with that. And in many times they're struggling with the fact that I've got to figure out a way I could pay this guy to be a manager to make less money than he was making as a salesperson. And so it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. And I can say for me personally, and I can't wait for us to talk about what you teach everybody that goes through your program, was I didn't think that of myself either. I didn't have employees. I didn't have for 20 years, nearly 20 years of my career. I just was I had a couple of file clerks, and I had a lady help me with my books, and they worked in the office with me, but I didn't really consider myself a leader of people until she convinced me that I needed to grow this brokerage. And then I was like, oh, and of course it was really her aunt, but still, and then all of a sudden I'm thrust into this position. But then I found that I really enjoyed it, because I really enjoy helping mentor people that have a lot of potential and are bought into the direction that they're going. And so your assessment really has helped a lot with that.
Thank you.
But before we get into that, Isabelle, what do you think is the most important thing that leaders should know today?
Hands down, adaptability. Hands down, because the command and control is gone. It's over. That's been changing for the past 20 years, but especially since COVID, it's done. And the great employees have choices. And if you don't treat them right, if they don't feel like they're contributing to the highest standard that they can give you, they'll walk away. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you took a job and you obeyed your boss, and you were dependent on your paycheck every 2 weeks, and you counted yourself lucky to be employed. Now we all have options. If I don't want to work for Jack, I'll go work for Joe. And if I don't want to work for any one of these two, I'll build my own brand, which is what I ended up doing. And I'll just do my own thing, because now the entire world is our oyster, right? So good employees, they won't put up with command and control. They won't put up with an abusive boss anymore. And thank goodness.
Sure.
Yeah. I think your adaptability, Isabelle, goes more towards your LeaderSHIFT brand, right? Your LeaderSHIFT strategy. And I'm going to set that up and say, we're going to talk in a different episode. We'll have you back on another time to talk about your BrandFace journey, because today is really talking about what you did for us. But we learned throughout what you did for us in that LeaderSHIFT strategy is that you don't have to just accept where you are. It gives you the knowledge, and like your assessment gives you the knowledge, and you work with people to give them the tools to shift and adapt to manage their teams really well. I hope I set that up well for you, Isabelle.
You certainly did. And yeah, and adaptability as a leader is about tapping into the unique abilities and the unicity of every single team member. So if you're extremely good or you have a need for influence, then, I should tap into that and make you the person in charge of, creating workshops and going out there and talking about representing our company. Or, if someone is extremely well structured and they need, the framework and they need everything to be organized, and that's the person in charge of all the data and sorting through all the data. So when you know this about your team members, that is how you draw the best out of every single one of them. But not only is it good for your productivity, for your profitability, because come on, let's be honest, we're in business to make money. There's no need to pretend that it's not the reason why. But it's also great for retention, employee retention. Every single employee that I meet, they all want to contribute. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be valued. They want to be part of the team. And when you tap into what they can do naturally, my God, the sky is the limit, because they'll do it with a smile on their face, and they'll be so ecstatic that they know how they are contributing to the team.
I love it.
Did that answer your question, though?
Yes.
Yeah,
perfectly.
I think it did. And I got to say that I grew up in that era you were talking about, command and control. Although I had entrepreneurs in my family, so many people had a job, or they would work for a factory, or they worked, so many of my family members or whatnot. And so we sort of saw the end of that come. I like it much better now. The adaptability, because I do enjoy that. I like seeing somebody say, I hate the numbers. I don't want to do the numbers, but I love talking to people. Okay, you go out there and you go talk to people. I love the numbers. I don't want to see anybody. Okay, you get in there in that office over there and close the door.
Exactly.
I like figuring that out. It's part of the puzzle. And then you do see people grow from it. You do.
Like what you're hearing? Hit that subscribe button and learn how you can change how you're seen and charge what you're worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing too, Michael, is that before you get to that kind of knowledge about your employee, it takes an insane amount of time. Because when you hire somebody, well, you're the boss. So they don't want to show you that they're vulnerable. They don't want to show you they're afraid of doing a task because they're afraid of messing it up. So you have years and years and years of investing in that person, on getting to know that person and figuring out with trials and errors, what is the best task to give that person. Or you do a cognitive and behavioral assessment and you know it in 90 minutes.
And you save all that time. Because, a friend of mine one time was on a flight with the guy, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but the guy that was a founder of Monster.com. Y'all remember Monster?
Yeah.
I think they were bought by Indeed or something like that. But anyway, they hiring, big platform, big money. And he asked him, my friend asked this guy, he says, well, what's the number one thing you'd tell a small CEO of a small company, CEO of a small company? He's like, if they don't fit the team, get rid of them. And and he's right. He's dead on right? Because you can't waste time. But to your point, you also got to spend time with that person, or know some kind of basis of how you're going to start the relationship based on something. And then, ta-da, here's Isabelle that can help you with that assessment. And so hopefully we set the
So-
stage good for
Yes, yeah. And
Tanya's motivations.
yes, yeah, for my motivation. Michael joked when we got on here, this is going to be a really fun one because now he knows my motivations. So we're going to actually dig into this because we took her cognitive and behavioral assessment, and it does showcase your motivations, why you do. And it was pretty eye-opening in several ways. But Isabelle, I'll let you set the stage for how this whole assessment works, and then we'll dig into what your thoughts were on mine and Michael's test first.
Well, the assessment measures two things. It measures how do you function in the world. So how much influence do you need? How much in charge do you need to be? How do you react under pressure? How much structure do you need to be? So that's kind of one aspect of it. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Are you task oriented? Or are you people oriented or relationship oriented? But the particular thing with this assessment is it also measures your deep core motivations and values. And if I take the first part as being the kind of car that you drive, the motivations is the kind of fuel that you put in the car. So are you extremely cognitive? Do you need to learn, or do you need to learn only the things that you're interested in? Are you highly individualistic? And individualistic does not mean selfish. It means how much recognition do you actually need? And the key word here is need. It's not a pet peeve. We all have needs. If you look at the Maslow needs, you need to breathe, of course, you need to eat, you need to sleep, but you also need to be validated, and you need to be recognized, and it's just that these motivations varies from one person to the next. So I will have a high motivation in one, a low motivation in another. And the high numbers speak as much as the low numbers. So when you know this about whether it's your employee or your spouse, then you know exactly what kind of language to use in order to get your message through that person. And that's why the motivations are so important. If I know, in your case, let's say Michael, if I know that whatever the world thinks of you has very little bearing on how you live your life, I'm not going to tap into that. I'm going to tap into what you truly care about. I often compare motivations with language. So if I go to Italy and I go in a remote village in Italy, nobody speaks French, nobody speaks English, but I want something from them. I need to find a way to speak Italian. So motivation, knowing which motivation applies to you, Tanya or Michael, it's like having a Google Translate. Now I can go in, type, mother tongue is French. Here I can type something that I want, say, translate that in Italian, and then show the clerk, this is what I want. So it's the same thing. So motivation is so crucial, especially when you want something from people.
Yeah. What was it, Isabelle, that stood out to you about Michael's assessment?
Oh, it was his low motivation. I didn't know Michael that well when I did his assessment. I had a pretty good sense of how much influence he needs and how much challenges he need. I kind of knew that just from seeing him in meetings and stuff. But his motivations, that really stood out. How much he's not waiting for anybody's approval to live his life. And I love that. And what I particularly love, I remember this moment in the one-on-one that Michael and I had. And when I said these words, he said, "Yeah, that's me. I don't care." I love that. I love when I say something and people go, yeah, that's me.
Oh,
And
yes.
As far as Michael was concerned, he wasn't surprised, but sometimes the person that I'm doing the debriefing with is actually going to go, and you can see that they're processing, like they're going through their entire lives thinking, yeah, I am like that. And these are my favorite moments when people
That was
discover
more me.
something.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was more me. That was more me. But I wanted to continue on Michael for just a minute because it's fun.
Yes.
So Michael's highest color was blue. Talk just a little bit about that.
The highest color, blue, means it's somebody that needs structure. So
Boy,
a
does
lack
he.
of blue is a lack of blue is me. And the way to describe a lack of blue is the number on the speed limit is a suggestion. Someone with a high blue is no, no, no. We made rules. We made regulations. We installed framework. There's a reason for it. We're going to follow that because I need structure. Because what we need to understand with this assessment is it is about cognitive and behavioral preferences, but it also talks about our needs. So Michael needs things to be organized. If not, if it's chaotic, he won't like it. So he needs to have things in a certain way. You, not so much.
Wait, let's stay on Michael for a minute. Well, I will say this about Michael. That assessment nailed it with him, right? Not so much the speed limit test. We can talk about that for a different day. But in terms of conversations with the staff and everything throughout the day, it's like, okay, are we following protocol? Okay, guys, that's not really protocol, right? And Michael, once you set the protocol, there is absolutely a reason for that protocol. And I can see that in him all day long.
You don't deviate from it. Yeah.
Yeah. When you know what works, you stick with what works. You know, even down to the type of flooring that goes into the rental properties, right? It's like, this is the type of flooring we have. One day somebody came in and bought a different kind of flooring, put a different kind of flooring in there. Oh no, that was not going to do, right? And he's right. He's absolutely right, because when you have so many people working on different projects, you have to have those guidelines or it goes awry pretty quickly. So I can say I will absolutely vouch for that's exactly who he is on that side of things. But also the other thing that I love that came from yours is his ideology was just off the charts, right?
Yes.
He's a very principled person.
Yeah.
And
I remember it was in 80s.
It was 93.
Oh my goodness. You were in 80s.
Yeah.
Because I remember both of your ideological motivation was extremely high.
It was. It's part of the reason I think we're so compatible, because they happen to be the same.
That's exactly what I was going to say, because an extremely high ideological with somebody else who has a high ideological but whose values clash with yours, that's not going to work for
that's
either
not
one
going to
of
work.
you.
Right. Oh gosh, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Well, my highest color was yellow. Talk about that for a moment.
Yellow is the need for influence. Yellow are usually people person. They don't necessarily need to be the center of attention, but they really don't mind being it. They're extremely creative people. They're extremely innovative people. And the way for you, if my memory serves, the way it showed up is you take fun very seriously. If it isn't fun, you are not there. If you're going to build a brand, you're going to do business with somebody, you're going to be quote unquote stuck working with someone, that person better be fun, because if not, you'll walk away from that money.
That's her. So that is so her.
Or at the very least, like not confrontational, right? Yeah. Like not fun.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like
you might not be fun, but you can't not be fun, right?
That's
you can't
right.
not be fun. You can't not
I think that's
fun.
scientific. So anyway, I loved, but I will say to this, when I saw that whole like influencer quadrant there, and I'm looking at this, I'm going, that is so not me. And then I had to have that aha moment. It's like, you know, when Isabel's sitting there going through these certain things, and I say, oh yeah, well, maybe that sort of is.
Yeah.
Maybe it is, because I like your description of, you don't have to lead things, but you're good with doing that.
Mhm.
And I would add to it, sometimes I do feel like I have to lead things. I think that's the boss girl in
Well, if
me
you look around
sometimes.
and don't feel like anybody else is, for sure.
Well, there you
She'll
go.
definitely step to the
Okay.
plate
He
in a heartbeat.
he just set up the perfect scenario here, because I've said this 1,000 times over the years. So, when you're in like 3rd or 4th grade and the teacher says, all right, everybody, it's time for a group project. I literally just would slide down in my seat and go, oh, no, please, not that.
Pick
right?
somebody else.
Yes, pick somebody. I don't want to be in a group. Just go let me do my own thing. I don't like to be in a group. And it doesn't mean that I'm not a team player. It just means I didn't want to be responsible for all you yahoos over here. I want an A. And I know I'm going to have to do what it takes to get an A, and history will show that most people are not going to work hard to get the A. So I'm going to be stuck with the work. Right. And that is the way I have felt since the 3rd grade.
Mhm.
Awesome.
That was
That's so
actually
true.
so on
It is.
with your assessment that, I, knowing her long before we had the pleasure of meeting you and you coming into our lives, and in taking this assessment, I already picked up on that with her, obviously spending time with her.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we've talked a lot about in developing our own CEO characteristics, right, and growing companies that take on more employees and more clients and grows like we all hope our businesses do, right, was
Mhm.
me and Tanya. I had to work with Tanya a little bit, because I had to say, honey, you can't do it all. Like if you want to be a one-person shop, you can do it all. But if not, there's a difference in having to do it all and just being sure that it's done. And she definitely, because all those years, she was like, no, I'll do everybody's part. Just let me have it.
Yeah.
And it was always perfect.
He's right. Yeah,
It's
it was always
going to be dead
perfect.
on.
And it was always slower, and it was not as progressive, and there was not as much growth. And that's the truth. That's what happens when you try to take it on all yourself. So I've grown a lot in that arena for sure. And he's been the big reason for that, is like,
You
calling me
both
to the
complement
carpet.
one another.
Yeah.
Very much so. Cause I had to learn too, like in the ideological side of me, that not everybody not everybody adheres to those things. Right. And so I had to temper it down to where, okay, protocols are important, right? Protocols are you don't have to believe all my ideals, but the protocols we can't deviate from.
Yeah.
And I had to learn, I had to bring that level down for my employees and stuff, because I couldn't keep them.
No, I totally understand that. And it's so funny you mentioned ideological, because when I did my assessment, if I can share, when I did my assessment, I was shocked by how little ideological I had. And I even like almost got mad at the person doing the debriefing with me, because I went, well, this thing's basically telling me I have no values. And she said, no, 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 no. She said, that's not what it's saying. It's saying that you don't care what other people thinks about your value, and you're not trying to convince anybody of your values. And see, that's what I was saying earlier. The low numbers speaks as much as the high numbers, because Michael and I are at extreme opposite. I'm literally the opposite of you. I think my ideological number is 39 and yours is 93. But
Great.
you could not convince me of your value, although I suspect that our values are shared, but you could not convince me of your values. And I would not care that you had your values and that mine differs from you. Because that's, for me, it's not that my values don't matter or that I don't have any. It's just, I'm just going to do my thing. And, if you don't believe it, that's fine. If you
don't
believe
need
it,
that validation.
yeah, no, I really don't care.
Yeah.
But Isabelle,
I love
knowing
it.
you as well as I do after all these months, I can tell you, I think that's where your strength as a consultant comes from.
Yeah.
Is because you can look at people, and regardless of that fact that they may not hold the same ideals as you see them as unique human beings and help them figure out where their strengths and weaknesses are and motivations, etc.
Yeah, definitely see that.
Yeah, I think that's a huge strength.
And I think the assessment's so great too, though, because self-perception is a terrible thing with most of us, right? And I think that's what really we're tapping into a little bit from your assessment, right? So I learned a long time ago that the guy that I see in the mirror is not the guy that you guys see. It's totally different. And I can't imagine what it is that you see. But I'll see what I see, and what I see most times is wrong about myself. And that assessment really helps with you too, not just with how you interact with your employees or clients, I think. And I really enjoyed that. So, it makes you think about yourself for a second, because it's so spot on. You're like, especially those things where you think that's not me. And then you start thinking, like you said, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite part of every assessment. And you know what, to your point, Michael, there's a 4-year study conducted by Dr. Tasha Eurich. It's the longest, most intensive study that has ever been made on self-awareness. It lasted 4 years, and they interviewed 5,000 people. Wow. And what they came up with was their conclusion. Parts of their conclusion was 95% of people claim to be self-aware. In reality, actually 10 to 15% are self-aware.
Whoa.
So yes, that's extremely low, but we all think that we're experts on who we are. And I love these moments, Michael, when I do a debriefing, and the higher the position, like the CEOs, oh, I love that. That's very entertaining for me to sit there and watch them go, no, I'm the CEO of this and that, and I've accomplished this and this and this, and then I never confront anybody. That's not my job. My job is to show what the data is showing, and maybe bring them just a question that makes them think. And when I bring the question, yes, you're capable, but like, would you not prefer maybe to work in your basement and never go in the office and not be in charge of 5,000 people? And they go, yeah, actually I would.
Yeah. Because it forces you to look inside yourself and see yourself from a completely different light, which absolutely can shape the way you deal with other people from the very moment that oh gosh, yeah, that's absolutely right. Maybe I should handle this differently.
Yes, and it doesn't measure your capabilities. It measures your preferences. There's a difference between the two,
Yes,
so I'm capable of drinking a 26 ouncer of vodka. It's not a good idea, but I'm capable. You know what I mean?
Best example I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, well, and I don't drink alcohol. That's the funniest thing.
But you're capable.
I would be. I just choose not to.
Physically, you could. Right? Isabelle, it's always such a pleasure. Hey, this is part 1 of Isabelle Fortin. You're going to see part 2 coming up soon as we dive into Isabelle's brand a little deeper and learn about her journey becoming a brand face. But Isabelle, this has been an eye-opening journey for both of us with your assessment. And like I said, I think I set the tone correctly when I say the assessment will actually show you your motivations. It will show you how you behave and why you behave that way. And then you begin working with Isabelle, and those things that can sharpen the way you become a better leader and shift those strategies. That is where the magic comes in.
Absolutely. Thank you. You guys rock. You're 2 of my favorite people on earth. Thank you so much for having me. I loved working with you in BrandFace, and this journey together is not over.
Not at all. Not at all.
Not even close. Thank you so much, Isabelle.
Isabelle, tell everybody what's the best way to get in touch with you if they want to start that journey. And I encourage everybody, do it for yourself And if you've got a team of people, do it for your team. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Best way is brand spanking new. It is 2 days old, and it is my website, and it's againsttheordinary.org. So againsttheordinary.org. The wonderful Cindel Dunn got it done, because that's what she does. And it's finally there and up and running, and you can take an appointment directly on the website. Second best place is LinkedIn, Isabelle Fortin, and just connect with me there, and that's okay too.
Thank you, Isabelle. We love you.
Thank you. Love you right back.
Ready to change how you're seen and charge what you're worth? If you're not getting enough opportunities to meet with ideal customers, or the prospects you're meeting with just aren't ideal, it's most likely your brand that's holding you back. So if you're a coach, consultant, or expert who is on the rise, you need our ultimate guide to a freedom-based brand. Download it free now at brandfaceguide.com.